Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Wanjiko, and I'll be the coordinator for this session. Welcome to this session by Nairobi DevOps. And today we're going to have a talk on API monitoring and observability with API Toolkit. And we are very fortunate to have Anthony Alaribe with us, who's the founder of API Toolkit. And I'll introduce him in a few. Yeah, he's the one who's going to take us through the talk. Okay, so let's start. For the quote of the day today is a quote by an American baseball player called Babe Ruth, and he said, "Every strike brings me closer to the next home run." And just for context, the home run means a score in baseball, and this quote basically just emphasizes or reminds us or encourages us that every setback or any failure is just a step closer to success. And it reminds us to be more the importance of persistence and also to learn from our mistakes. So this is going to be our agenda for today. We'll have a short icebreaker, and then I'm going to speak about our community for a few minutes. Then I'll hand it over to Anthony, who's going to speak on API monitoring and observability with API Toolkit, and then we can have a QA session after that. So for our icebreaker, I'd like for all of us to answer this question in the chat section. It's going to be, if you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would you choose and why? If you could hang out with any cartoon character, who would you choose and why? Maybe Anthony could answer for us. Can start for us. Yes. He's already answered. He says Garfield because he's so chill. Yeah, I can relate to that. For me, I think it'd be Dexter because he was so smart, and I think we'd have a good conversation. Any more answers from you guys? Yeah, Samuel, do you have an answer for that? Could you?
For me, I'm not into cartoons, so but I think I know Tom and Jerry. Probably I'll choose. I don't know which one is the cat or which one is the mouse, but I think I'll
Almost
choose.
that.
So I'll choose the cat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Karen says SpongeBob because she's always wanted to taste a Krabby Patty. Yeah, it looks really good. Anyone else who wants to add? Okay. Anthony Krabby Patty. Yeah, I also relate. Yeah, the Krabby Patty seemed very tasty, looked good. Okay, thanks, guys. So I'll speak a bit about our community. So, who are we as Nairobi DevOps community? We are a community that's made up of DevOps enthusiasts, that's experts and learners. So, people who've been in the field for a while, and learners are people who are trying to learn or are curious about DevOps or are trying to grow their career in DevOps. And we just give a space for networking and growth. Our mission is to create a supportive and inclusive community that values diversity and supports learning and growth. So we aim to have a very diverse group of people, and our main thing is to learn and grow. Our vision is to be a leading DevOps community in Nairobi and beyond and drive innovation by driving innovation and empowering professionals to excel in their career. Just like our mission, our main goal is to empower people to excel in their career. And for anyone who wants to plug in into the community, and I encourage all of us to plug into the community, these are ways in which you can help our community. So first is by running workshops and talks on topics that come easy to you. So for example, if you're passionate about any topic related, DevOps related or career related, you can sign up to give a talk like the one we're going to have today. Then you can also connect us with DevOps professionals that you probably work with or know that might want to plug in into the community and give talks in our webinars and also our physical events. We'd really also like feedback and share ideas on how we can make the community better. So have us share on how we have been able to empower your growth and give us ideas on how we could make your growth better. Then also you can share our posts on posting on our channels. We have a Twitter page, a LinkedIn page, and a WhatsApp channel. So there you can share, repost, retweet, and also engage with other members of the community. You can help in organizing events such as this one and also our physical events like the DevOps Day we had a few weeks ago, and other upcoming events. And lastly, you can join our branding team to just help do things like design for our events and our posters and all that. So, for anyone who's yet to join our community, you can scan this code or scan this QR code, sorry, and you'll be able to plug in or to join our LinkedIn, our WhatsApp, or our Twitter. I'll give you a second for anyone who's scanning. Okay, so for anyone who's missed out, they can reach out. We can reshare the page again. And yeah, finally to the part we've been waiting for, the talk by Anthony. So Anthony is I'm going to let him introduce himself, and he's going to give us a talk on API monitoring and observability with API Toolkit. So Anthony, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, I didn't know I could turn on my camera until now. So thanks for having me today. I didn't hear when you said your name, so I'm probably gonna butcher it. Is it Wanjiku?
Yes, Wanjiku is correct.
So thanks for the intro, Wanjiku, and hi everyone. Thanks again for having me today. Kenya is one of my favorite places, especially when I'm trying to escape the winter in Germany. So I have a few friends there. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to be speaking, with others here. And then I would share my screen, and then maybe we just kick in. So this is, feel free to butt in at any point, ask questions. If something is not clear, you can ask. If you just have an opinion you want to share, please don't hesitate to share. I have a strong belief that those kind of opinions and questions and whatever help make sessions like this just better for everybody. So yeah, you can also just write it if you don't want to like butt in. You can also write it in the comment messages thing. Okay, so let me share my screen and let's get started. Okay, so this seems to have worked. So yeah, I'm going to give a talk today about API monitoring and observability, especially from the perspective of API Toolkit. Give me 1 second. I'll just try to find audio in case this is clear. Can you hear me? Is it better or is it worse?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so let's just get started. So my name is Anthony Alaribe, and you might ask the question, like, why the hell do you want to listen to whatever I'm saying? And that's a good question. maybe you shouldn't, but I've been in the industry for quite a few years, and a lot of the things I can show for this time is the things I have lost. So, for example, I've been responsible for so many downtimes in many companies, and one particular incident that I was responsible for cost a company over $2 million worth of orders. And that incident is kind of what led me down this API Toolkit journey. I mean, I'm going to share a bit of the story, but yeah, I've been in the industry, and one very constant theme that you have to deal with is just how unreliable a lot of the systems that that we have to maintain or that we have to integrate with are, both in terms of just downtime and uptime, but also in terms of how much issues and bugs and breaking changes that they introduce. So let's move on. So maybe first I'll give you a bit of the story about this incident at Delivery Hero. So this is actually the entrance to the headquarters of this company looks like here in Berlin, in Germany. And the incident actually happened in 2019, like January of 2019, when I joined the company to help them rewrite some legacy systems. So they're trying to, the company was growing very fast at the time. They were acquiring other food delivery brands in Asia, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, places like that. And if you've done anything with Asian countries, you know that their population is crazy, which means launching in just one city, for example, launching in a city in Hong Kong can easily be an extra 10,000 requests per minute that you have to handle. So we're going way faster than the systems they could handle. And so we had to rewrite this core search and discovery experience in Go from the PHP system they had before. And I mean, the first rule about rewrite is maybe don't do it. But the second rule is that if you have to do it, you want to be very well tested, make sure you have good test coverage and do things carefully. And we did all of that. Everything worked very fine. We had it running on a staging environment for weeks, and everything looked great. But when we rolled out in production, everything broke. I mean, not everything broke, but it broke enough that we lost a lot of money. And why did it break? So we had a lot of the more popular monitoring systems out there. So that's things like Datadog and New Relic at the time, and Sentry. And we had an incident that none of them really could detect. And this is a very common incident in industry, which is where your system is working perfectly, or at least from the perspective of your monitoring tools. So your APIs are returning 200, okay, everything looks great. But then the data inside the APIs is what is changed, is what is broken. And apparently none of the systems, even up till now, is able to catch this kind of breaking changes. But it turns out that, if you look at most incidents that companies have to deal with, breaking changes like this are the most popular issue. And then, not very rarely do entire platforms go down. And that is what most of the monitoring tools are optimized for. But anyway, so why is software shitty in 2024? This is a very popular question. So there's this statistics from the Computer Science Society, and the statistics states that downtime and bugs is costing companies over $2 trillion every year in the US alone. I think globally. And so we're losing a lot of money to issues. So it means that if we're losing all of this, it means people know that software is shitty in 2024, right? some people would even argue that it's even more shitty now than it used to in the past. People talk about games from the 90s that used, or even desktop software from the 90s, where I remember having this Winamp music player. I think that's what it was called. And when you open it, it opens instantly. And in 2024, if you open Spotify, you wait a few seconds. So why is software so shitty? I don't have an answer to that question, but one thing that I know is that developers are pretty frustrated by this, and they're very vocal about it. So there are many reasons. I can't boil it down to one reason, but you can see, for example, on, like, if you search on Twitter, just to see where people are frustrated, you see people are very vocal. For example, this person, Jen, said, so she figured out why her tests were broken today. And apparently, someone decided to change the syntax for an API as part of a bug fix, and did not mention it to her or to anyone else in the team. And so now she's dealing with, broken APIs, and more common than you would think. See something like this where this person is just frustrated about documentation. And of course, there are good examples of systems like Stripe. People are pretty happy with Stripe. Vercel, which is like it almost feels like it's a multi-$100 million company, at least, even not even $1 billion company. But even their systems are broken quite more often than you would expect. Notion is a very popular one. We all use Notion. Sometimes it hangs, sometimes it freezes, sometimes some APIs are not even working. So the question is this: if like companies like Notion, Vercel, I had a few more of these examples. I don't know why I didn't include them. But if these companies are not able to get these things right, what hope does a mere mortal like you and me have? What chance do we stand? For sure, my company doesn't have thousands of engineers like Notion. So does that mean my systems all have to be shitty as well? And let's go back into the point of this talk. And I'm going to just show us through what modern observability looks like. So there are three main pillars of modern observability. The first one is metrics. So the whole idea of metrics is that you get a lot of data points that represent the information that is important to you, and then you can plot this on a graph. So this information could be something like, give me how many, plot it, for example, track all the HTTP status codes of my server. And why would this be important? Maybe you want to track when you have status codes that are not 200. And then if you notice that you have a lot of requests that are 300, 400, 503, etc., then it means something is wrong, right? So assuming you're able to track the correct numbers, then these metrics can be very valuable in showing you that something has gone wrong. The second pillar of observability is traces. So now you know that something has gone wrong because you're having a lot of 500 HTTP status codes. But now the next question is, where is the issue? Where is this problem? Just knowing that something is broken doesn't mean you know where to fix it from, right? You obviously don't want to go through every single line in your code base to fix this issue. And sometimes you even have many microservices in your architecture. So the issue might be coming from any one of the systems. It could be coming from the database. It could be coming from some service that is controlled by another team. So, what should we do? Traces usually would help narrow down, maybe starting with distributed traces. Distributed traces would narrow down and tell you the error came from this particular service, or this is the first service where this error or this issue or where something might have gone wrong, assuming you're able to wire it up correctly, of course. So let's move on to the third pillar, which is logs. And the point of logs is that now you have an idea of which service introduce this issue, or maybe even you know which function is introducing the issue. So logs would help you figure out the what, like what is different in this function, or what is different in this service. So usually you look at the log to see, okay, am I logging something that could help me debug? Maybe you're logging the actual error, or maybe there are other info logs that you've put in there that could help you narrow down the issue. So these are the 3 pillars of modern observability. Now, this is a question for everyone. Do you feel like these 3 have been enough in your career? Have they helped you not have any issues so far? Feel free to just drop a message, a response in the chat. But while I'm waiting for you guys, so I would go back here and say that for me, I don't think so. I don't think they've been enough. I think they are amazing. And the problem is the if. First of all, metrics are valuable in catching all the issues, assuming that you already track the correct metrics. And now that if is a very, very big if. Because even in the largest companies, and I'm talking companies like Google, Microsoft, etc., they don't track everything because you kind of need to see the future in order to track what you need in the future. And so what happened is that something goes wrong the first time, and then the team says, oh, this thing that went wrong, if we had this metric, we could have been able to detect it faster. And then they now go back and put in the metric, assuming they have the time and assuming that it's easy to collect that metric. So there's a lot of assuming and a lot of ifs. So now, assuming you have the metrics in there, now you've figured out that something is wrong. Now traces. The problem with traces is that there's always so much of them. And even the most popular observability platforms, they tell you, oh, we only keep traces for 24 hours because it's just too much data. Or some like if you use Grafana, they'll tell you, we sample most of the traces. So they're just random sampling, which means if you, let's say you correctly configured your traces with OpenTelemetry, and now you have an issue and you're like, yes, I'm going to debug this issue. Let's click on this particular issue. There's a very big chance, probably closer to 80% chance, that you would go in there and find out that the trace that is important to you was actually sampled out. And it's not even available for you to debug the issue because it's just so much data to track all of it. Now, logs, which is what has run the world so far, and to be honest, I'm a very strong proponent or advocate for logs. And on Twitter, someone was there was a conversation just today about logs versus debuggers, and someone trash talking people who still log instead of just using a debugger. But while logs are amazing, in production, the problem with logs is that you just like with metrics, you kind of need to see the future. You can't just log everything, because if you log everything, you won't be able to see what is important when something goes wrong, which means you need to kind of guess what would be the most important thing to log and then log that, which I'm not a time traveler and I'm not an oracle, so I don't see the future. So I've just finished trash talking the 3 main pillars of modern observability. So is there hope for us? But there's another problem. The next problem is, who even catches these issues? Let's say something goes wrong, who catches, what is going to catch it? What is going to, let your metrics know that, I don't know, something is wrong? Yeah, with a lot of metrics, you can, assuming you are collecting the metrics properly, you can probably set some, what is it called? Where you set a threshold and say, if this goes past this threshold, then send an alert. But remember I just spoke about the issue that that made us lose a lot of money at Delivery Hero. And that issue was basically that we were returning a payload, perfectly okay payload, but some data was missing, one field. And that field is basically that in Scandinavian countries, they have a legal requirement to return food dietary data. And all the other countries we're testing in did not have this requirement. So it's a very simple, it's more of a logic issue. And most issues that our projects face are actually logic issues, where some data is wrong, some data is missing. So none of those metrics in the first place could have caught this. Okay, I've just finished trashing all of this observability tools. So I want to talk about API Toolkit, which is my company and the company that came out of this story. And API Toolkit is basically an observability platform. You know, we're still working towards supporting a lot of those three pillars that I just trash talked. So logs, metrics, traces. But what sets API Toolkit apart is that instead of being a generalized observability, we decided that by specializing a little bit on these three letters, we can actually catch the issues that matter. So if you think about this, whatever software you maintain, the last incident you had was not that your app was down or crashed or everything was red. The last issue was probably that maybe some developer deployed a feature that broke something on the website, broke something on the app, something is not working like it should. And we realized that we can usually catch most of those breakage if we just look at the payload, the request and the response that is coming in and out of the server. If you look at it, if you look into the payloads, you would see when something has changed. And so now, what is it at the end of the day? Maybe first of all, do you have questions?
So far, there are no questions on the chat, but in case they send questions, we'll be able to read them out.
Thanks a lot, Samuel. Okay, I took that as an opportunity for a water break. Okay, so API Toolkit is an observability platform, and what sets it apart is that on top of the normal logs and metrics and all of that, we're logging the request and response payloads. That's the data that comes in and out of your servers. But even more important, if you have to call third-party APIs, if you have to call MasterCard to do something for you, or call M-Pesa for whatever reason, we're able to log all of those requests. And why is that important? It's important because if something goes wrong, you want to look at the payload. You want to, a very common question in tech is if a customer comes to your customer support and says, I tried to do this and this did not work. The next question a developer would ask is, what were you doing? Where were you? What page were you on? How can I reproduce it? Things like that. And a lot of the time we are building products for non-techies. And I mean, why are you asking a non-techie all of these questions? So we log all the requests and responses for both inbound and outbound. That's two integrations. The next big use case is that I told you, who's going to catch when something goes wrong. So what we do is that by logging that, we analyze those payloads and we pass it through, a lot of interesting cryptography and cryptographical techniques where we're able to catch breaking changes. So if you add a field, or if you deleted a field, or you updated a field on any endpoint, or even if one of the third-party APIs you use added a field or removed a field, we're able to catch it immediately and then notify the team that, hey, like there's a breaking API change. Likewise, we're also tracking all the errors that happen, so runtime errors. So if there's an exception or a crash or an error in your code, we track and aggregate it so you can see the first time it started, and you can see how often that error has been happening since then. Likewise, you're able to create these triggers on. I'll show you an example, but you can create a trigger on any query which you can run on the data. So excuse me. Okay. Yeah, and of course, when there's we're really logging everything, which means you can expand and go into the details and see what's going on. I would just skip through, and if there's an error, of course, being able to see a stack trace of the errors. So basically, when you're debugging an issue, you'll be able to see the actual requests, but also see any errors, the list of errors that happened, while we're processing that request. And of course, all the regular APM metrics. I'm talking to a room full of DevOps engineers here, so you all know APM. So if you want to know how many requests per second, per minute, the servers are handling, you want to see how fast or how slow each individual endpoint is, or how much errors are happening. And so we're automatically tracking that. You don't even need to do anything to get that. And of course, by analyzing the payload and analyzing by specializing on APIs, we're able to create this catalog, this API catalog, where you see all the endpoints on your server, and get statistics for that endpoint. So I don't know how many minutes we have left. Can someone share? So I would like to just show you, but I'll just show you. So this is kind of what API Toolkit, looks like. So just like I just came into some demo project. That's why it looks not so busy. But being able to see all of those metrics, and that we have like another demo project with some more data. Maybe that is interesting to people. Yeah. So usually you can have a bit more data. And all the data that's coming in and out of the server get logged in here. So this one's coming down at the incoming request, and these are outgoing, which is basically when we have to call a third-party API. And so if, for example, there was an issue with this request, or a customer said, "Oh, something is wrong," blah 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 blah. Being able to just come in and see exactly what was made in each of the requests, or even just search by, whatever the customer was doing. Let me check if I can find a good request to search by. So if you have like a customer ID, maybe in your headers or in wherever, that is usually a very good candidate to search for. Okay, you know what? Let me just search by this. Excuse me. Yeah. Oh yeah, I added this to summary. But so let's go in here. And let's filter by it again. Yeah, so basically a flexible way of searching by and filtering whatever is going on, going on in and out of a server. Maybe a better example would be this project. Oh, yeah, so this is basically a deeper and richer project. So, let's go back to that log explorer. So being able to, for example, let's filter. Let's say I would just want to find all the requests that were failing. So I can search for a request that maybe are more than 200. So now we can see all the requests that were not 200s. And maybe even dive deeper. For example, we can find all the requests that had this particular error message that says no customer found. Or maybe first of all, I'll just add it to summary. So we can see the different messages. Some are success, some is this no customer found. So let's filter out all the ones that are success maybe. So we can see what is left. Exclude. So now we can see like requests with like different errors. So anyway, that's basically what API Toolkit is, right? That they believe that by tracking all the requests that are coming in and out of your server, and at the same time tracking all the errors, catching breaking changes. That's this breaking changes here that I spoke about. So, here now we're able to see all the whatever change that happened in your server. So if we detected a new endpoint, we'll let you know. If we detected a new shape is usually when maybe there's some new fields or basically any of those kind of incidents. Then we try to let you know. At the same time, at a glance, if I ask you, what are all the third parties that you are calling from your service? Can you answer that question? So that is some of the kind of questions that a tool like this helps you answer. For example, if I go into outgoing integrations, at a glance, I can see all the outgoing integrations that are in this project, right? So I can see how often they are being called, and I can see the ones that we used to have, but we're no longer making any requests to, or at least we didn't make any requests in the last 2 weeks. And if I want to see what is the failure rate for any of them, I can just go in and then see, how much. Likewise, if I want to just, filter by it in the log explorer, I can also come here and then, jump in and do whatever I want. So that is a big part. The other part of API Toolkit is that we're out on top of doing this active or this passive monitoring, which I just showed you. We're able to do this is called active monitors, or synthetic monitors. So these are monitors or tests. You can also call them tests, where you make a request to an endpoint. Maybe you can assert that a response is whatever you want it to be, and then maybe you can use the result from that first request to hit another endpoint. So basically an API test. And one of the strengths of API Toolkit is this is in a work in progress feature though, that we're able to generate these tests automatically for you based on the the data and traffic that you have. And then you can, for example, specify that this test should be run on a schedule. In this case, it will be run every 2 minutes. And of course, you can execute this test if you like. Let me delete these assertions. Yeah. Probably not probably broken. Yeah, I don't want to debug that on this call. But anyway, I think I've just been showing some bits of API Toolkit. Yeah, of course, being able to generate Open API Swagger, of the use cases of the platform. Okay, so I think I've done a lot of showing. I think if I show too much, it just becomes boring. So yeah, this is more or less what API Toolkit is. It's an observability platform that is able to not only monitor and track all of these numbers, but actually catch the issues for you. So catch when there's a breaking change, catch when one of your engineers went to rename a field or deleted a field, catch when one of the third-party integrations you have has broken something or has changed something. All right, thanks everyone. So now I guess if you have questions.
Yes. Thank you, Anthony, for the informative session. And yes, so for everyone else, does anyone have any questions or comments for Anthony? So for questions or comments, you can just type them out. So yes, we have a question from Sandra. Sandra asks, so how does it alert you if there's an issue? Anthony, you're muted, so can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. I was in mute. Yeah, so Sandra, thanks for the question. So we're able to create alerts, and that is what this is, where I can decide what the threshold should be. For example, send an alert if it hits 50, or send a warning if it hits 30, for example. And the part that is probably more important to you is that we're able to specify different notification channels. So that could be, for example, to send the message to Slack, or email everyone, or maybe email only a specific person, right? So you can put the person's email. So that's basically how you create alerts. We have other alert channels coming, such as Microsoft Teams and Discord, and Ops Genie and PagerDuty. But at the moment, these are the main. I mean, also for a lot of teams, this is usually enough. Right? Does that answer your question, Sandra? Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
she says yes. Any other questions, guys? I have a question myself. How would I go about the process of plugging into or using API Toolkit? Is it an API? Is it how do you go about it?
Thanks, Wanjiku. Yeah, that's a very important question. So it depends. So we are rolling out regular support for logs and open telemetry, which means you can integrate it the same way you would do any open telemetry integration. But we also have a very, very simple way of integrating, which is, sorry, my dark mode thing just kicked in. Yeah, my bad. So we have SDKs for many languages, over 20 framework SDKs in many different languages. And depending on the language, it could be just a couple lines. I guess this one is not a couple lines, but depending on the language, it could be just a couple lines. For example, with PHP, you don't even need to do anything. All you need to do is run composer require and then specify the API key. Yeah, actually, this is all you need, to be honest. And then it's going to work on Laravel and automatically start reporting. And if you want to report like errors, we have some ways of doing that as well. But yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Wanjiku.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll give a few minutes or comments to Anthony. Samuel asks, how customizable is API Toolkit? Does it have any widgets?
By widget, I assume you mean custom dashboards. And the answer is that this is a feature that's coming out soon. We're still rolling out custom dashboards, but yeah, it would be one of the use cases. So you would basically be able to create charts for basically all of the data that we're tracking, the metrics and especially the metrics, and also the request logs. Thanks, Samuel.
Okay, guys, last chance to ask.
Go in. I think I can. Yeah.
Okay, Anthony, thank you for the session. Okay, there's a last question. How much do you charge the client? That's from Ada.
It's a fairly cheap project. We charge based on usage. So we charge basically $1 per 20,000 requests. Yeah. So based on the number of requests that the server handles. And in practice, for most small projects, they actually end up fitting into the free plan, for example. Thanks, Adam, for the question. Did I answer your question as well? Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think we can end there. So, Anthony, thank you so much for the great session.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks, Anita. Thanks, Samuel. Thanks, Manjiko. And everyone here who was you were a nice audience. So enjoy.
Okay. Cheers.
Someone has their hands up, Zachariah, it seems.
Oh. Oh yeah.
So you can
write on chat.
Yeah. So
All right.
Henry asks, when was API Toolkit founded?
API Toolkit is 2 years old. So, I mean, it depends on the definition of founded, right? So API Toolkit as a company is 2 years old, but API Toolkit started after that incident in 2019. Basically, we had that downtime. We lost over $2 million. And then we had to do this retrospective where, as engineers, we basically write down what was the cause of the incident, what could we have done better, and I had to think hard. What could I really have done better? All the options.
Okay. I think we've lost Anthony. Yeah, I think we've lost him. Okay, he's back.
hi, Anthony. You should be able to speak.
Oh, hi everyone. So sorry. Something just happened technical wise on my computer. So I just joined from mobile. Yeah, sorry about that. I was answering the question from Zachariah about if there is, if there's anything from the pen testing and API security side of things. And while security and API security was not, our the primary thing we started out to solve, slowly we are having more and more features that kind of are useful to people who are into security. For example, we're offering this API linting where we're able to lint all the requests that come in and out for different parameters. And some of those parameters are some of the OWASP security points. So we're checking things like, like the kind of JWT that is in there, just all the key points that are kind of important for security. I don't know if that answered your question, but this is not our primary use case. It's just, us trying to offer value to people who already have API toolkits. All right. Did I answer your question, Zachariah, or do you have a follow-on question? Okay, he's satisfied. Thank you. All right, so I guess that's all the questions.
Yeah, so there is no any other question. So if you've answered for Zachariah Evans, I think that is it. Unless there is any other question, last chance from anyone. If there is none, I think then that is it. Wanjiku, back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all. Also from my end, we can end the session for today. And thank you so much, Anthony, for the knowledge and the information that you've shared with us. And yes, we usually have this weekly session, so look forward to having you guys in the next session next week, same time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me again today, Wanjiku, and everyone here, Samuel, and thanks for your questions, Zachariah, Anita. Basically, everyone who asked and who was part of this. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.